let's talk about the invisible engine of our digital world. You know, the thing that powers pretty much everything from your Netflix binge to the most critical business apps out there. We're diving into Azure Storage, the cloud's massive digital warehouse. It's a great question, right? We say the cloud all the time, but it's not just up there. The internet lives on physical hardware, inside enormous, highly secure data centers all over the world. And when we're talking about Microsoft's cloud, that foundation, that physical reality, is Azure Storage. Okay, so what is Azure Storage really? Well, think of it as the bedrock. It's the foundational layer for almost everything you can build in Azure. We're talking virtual machines, websites, complex AI models. They all need a place to live, and this is it. And maybe the best part? It's a completely managed service. That means you never, ever have to think about buying servers, replacing hard drives, or managing hardware. Microsoft takes care of all of it. Now look at this number. That's 11 nines of durability. 11. It's kind of hard to even wrap your head around what that means. It means the statistical probability of you losing a file is so infinitesimally small, it's practically zero. This level of reliability is really what the entire cloud is built on. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basics, the foundation. Then we'll look at the 5 main tools in the toolbox, the core storage services. After that, we'll get into how you can control performance and, more importantly, cost. Then we'll cover safety and security. And finally, we'll tie it all together and see why any of this really matters. So, let's start at the very beginning. Everything in Azure Storage, all that power and scale, it all kicks off with one surprisingly simple thing, the storage account. You can just think of it as your main container, your top-level folder in the cloud. And don't let that simplicity fool you, because the scale is just staggering. A single one of these accounts can hold petabytes of data. That's millions of gigabytes, and trillions of individual files. You can place it in any of Microsoft's 60-plus global regions to get it close to your users. And again, the key here is that you never have to manage the servers. It just works. Okay, so we've got our container, the storage account. Now, what do we actually put inside it? Well, this is where we open up the digital toolbox, because there are basically 5 different tools, each one perfectly designed for a different kind of job. First up, we've got Blob Storage. And honestly, the best way to think about it is like a super-powered Dropbox or Google Drive, but built for businesses and applications. This is where you put all your unstructured data. You know, things like photos, videos, massive backup files, website assets, you name it. It's built for insane scale and can hold basically an unlimited amount of data. Next up is Azure Files. Now, this one's going to feel really familiar to anyone who's ever worked in an office. It is, for all intents and purposes, your classic company shared drive. You know, the S drive or the Z drive, but completely modernized for the cloud. You can access it from anywhere on a Windows PC, a Mac, or a Linux machine, and it just works like a normal folder. It makes sharing files so easy. Then we have something totally different. Q Storage. I love this analogy. It's like leaving Post-it notes between your applications. It's a simple, reliable way for different parts of your software to communicate with each other by passing little messages back and forth. This is huge for building resilient applications because it means one part can leave a message for another without them having to be online at the exact same time. After queues, we've got table storage. Now, if blob storage is for messy, unstructured files, table storage is for simple, structured data. The Excel sheet in the cloud analogy is just perfect. It's a lightning-fast NoSQL database that's brilliant for storing things like user profiles or application settings where you just need to look up a value really quickly. And finally, rounding out our toolbox is disk storage. This is probably the most straightforward one of all. When you create a virtual machine, you know, a computer in the cloud, it needs a hard drive, right? Well, that's what disk storage is. It provides those high-performance solid-state drives or traditional hard drives that you attach to your cloud servers. Simple as that. Okay, so we have our 5 main tools, but within those tools, you get even more knobs and dials to turn. And this next part is all about one of the most important balancing acts in the cloud, performance versus price. So the first big choice you often have is standard versus premium performance. Standard is your everyday workhorse. It's cheaper, it's reliable, and it's perfect for most things like general file storage and backups. But if you need pure, unadulterated speed for something like a busy database, you can switch to premium. We're talking incredibly low latency, but it's going to cost you anywhere from 3 to 10 times more. It's all about picking the right gear for the job. And we can get even smarter about cost, especially with Blob Storage. See, Azure lets you classify your data by temperature. You've got the hot tier for data you're using all the time. Then there's the cool tier for things you might access once a month, like recent backups. Cold is for data you access maybe once a year, like for a compliance audit. And finally, there's Archive, which is for data you almost never touch but have to keep around. And here's why that matters. Just look at the difference. Storing 1 terabyte of data in that hot tier is going to run you about $24 a month. But if you could move that same terabyte of data to the archive tier, the cost plummets to just over $1. That's not a small saving. By intelligently tiering your data, you can dramatically slash your cloud bill. So, we know it's powerful, we know it's flexible and cost-effective, but is it safe? Well, let's talk about how Azure Storage keeps your data protected, whether that's from a simple hardware failure, a major regional disaster, or a security threat.
Right out of the box, your data is never just sitting in one spot. The most basic option, LRS, automatically makes 3 copies of your data within one data center. But you can step it up. ZRS also makes 3 copies, but spreads them across different physical buildings in a region. And for maximum protection, GRS creates 6 copies in total. 3 in your main region, and 3 more in another region hundreds of miles away. That's how you survive an entire region-wide outage.
And beyond just making copies, the security features are incredibly deep. I mean, all your data is encrypted by default. You don't even have to think about it. You can lock it down so it's only accessible from your private network. You can generate temporary, expiring links to share files securely. And for those critical legal or compliance scenarios, you can even make data immutable, which means nobody, not even you, can delete or change it for a set period of time. Okay, we've gone through a lot of the tech details, but what does all of this look like in the real world? Who is actually using these features at a massive scale? Well, here's a company you might have heard of. Every single time you press play on a Netflix show, there's a very good chance that video file is being streamed directly to you from Azure Blob Storage. That's a pretty incredible testament to the performance, the scale, and the global reach of this platform. And it's not just for streaming media. Think about a company like BMW. They use Azure Files Premium to create high-speed, shared drives for their engineers. This means teams in Germany and the US can work together on huge, complex design files as if they were sitting in the same office, all thanks to the low latency and high performance of that premium tier. So, if we boil this whole thing down, what are the key takeaways? Well, for me, it's these 3 things. First, it's simple. You start with one storage account and you get a whole toolbox for all kinds of data. Second, it is absolutely safe. Your data is copied multiple times and it's always encrypted. And third, it's affordable. You only pay for exactly what you use, and if you're smart about it, it can be incredibly cheap. And that really brings us to the final thought. When you have access to a platform with this much power, this much safety, and this much reach, it just changes what's possible. It lowers the barrier to entry for anyone with a great idea. So I'll leave you with this question. If you had this kind of digital foundation at your fingertips, what would you build?